Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the first episode of the Ruby from Scratch video series. So Ruby from Scratch is a series of very short, bite-sized videos that will introduce you to the concepts behind Ruby, like what are the best practices and the ideas behind Ruby and like the conventional way of doing things in Ruby. What are some of the things you're going to need to know if you're going to build anything with Ruby. So, in this episode right here, I want to talk to you guys about why Ruby is a great language. So, when Ruby was created, it was created by a Japanese developer called Yukihiro Matsumoto. And basically, his idea behind it was that the developer should come first. So there's a lot of things like if you go and read the Ruby website, which I have open over here, you see things like, it has to be fun, it has to be simple, and that, elegant and easy to read and write. This was like one of the first things that Ruby had, and it's like programmer's best friend. Like you see those words on the Ruby website, and that means that the community and everything around Ruby is catered towards making the developer happy. Developer happiness is also one of the focus of Ruby. So this is the reason why the whole idea and the slogan and this motto behind Ruby is the reason why it's one of the best languages to start building things with or to even learn. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the community. The community behind Ruby is very much into convention over configuration, and that probably because Rails, kind of like set that standard. And also they are into things that are dry. So dry meaning, you don't want to write the same piece of code twice. So dry just means don't repeat yourself. A lot of these ideas that are really great that kind of like started with Ruby, from the community themselves, having libraries and abstractions that are easy to use, easy to import into your projects and then just build with. A lot of these ideas started with Ruby, and then JavaScript, Elixir, and all these other languages started taking these concepts from Ruby. So when I started out with Ruby, I figured, well, it's a beautiful language. I love things that look good. For me, it should work well and it should look good. So this was the reason why I got into Ruby and Rails. And then I started to look at what are some of the examples of things that people built with Ruby. So I'm going to show you a few projects, companies. These are billion-dollar companies. Well, some of them are $1 billion, some of them are $1 million companies. Anyway, so it doesn't matter what their valuation is, but the point is they're built in Ruby and they're incredibly successful. Partly, I would say, is because of Ruby. Just because of the fact that Ruby has great defaults and productivity in mind. It allowed people to kind of like build really quickly and launch projects very quickly, much quicker, I would say, than any other programming language out there. So Stripe is one of them. If you're doing any kind of payment processing, you're buying stuff online, chances are you're probably using Stripe in some way or the other. So Basecamp is the project management tool out there, and it's also built by DHH, who also built Rails. And Rails is just one of those frameworks that just keeps going, and in an extremely positive way, because I still don't see any other framework except maybe in Phoenix on the Elixir side of things that is extremely productive and allows you to build and allows you to get all the right stuff, like in terms of security, the conventions and all that stuff. Rails is still the best framework if you want to start building a project of any kind. Basecamp is built on Rails. And so I'm going to show you another project which is called Shopify. So, there's so much in terms of e-commerce in Ruby, in the Ruby community, because Ruby is used to solve a lot of e-commerce problems. That's why there's a lot of libraries that cater to e-commerce problems, like building state machines or currency conversions or whatever. Like there's so many. Just the fact that there's so many payment gateways that are built even with Ruby, and on top of that, like e-commerce platforms. So Shopify is one of them. There's plenty out there. This elegant design, allows for a lot of these things to happen. And I just don't see the same kind of commitment, the same kind of attention to detail in any other community out there. So GitHub, if you write any kind of code, it's built in all of this is built in Rails. So Ruby is a great language to start with, and it's a great language to be good in, and it's a language just to kind of like build your career on. If you're looking to get jobs, you'll find really high-paying jobs in Ruby, and right now, if you're a Ruby developer, very easy to get jobs because everyone's looking for Ruby developers, and there's just not enough to go around. And also, I want to point out this may be a little bit controversial, but generally I find, just from my personal experience hiring Ruby developers, JavaScript or PHP, and any other programming language out there, generally Ruby programmers will be better than most other languages. What do I mean by better? Better as in they have better ethics in terms of when it comes to coding, like it becomes to testing, and it comes to writing clean code. Like those are kind of the ideas that you're going to get from Ruby that, in other communities, maybe they're not that reinforced. Like simplicity in the solution and abstracting and keeping things very clean and clear and like, learning the concepts and, all these ideas are baked right into the Ruby community. So when you pick up the language, you can't help it, but you just get sucked into doing the right things by default. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think Ruby is a great language. And I still find that like if you look at like people who've come from JavaScript, I have friends who are JavaScript developers who, when they see my work, they're like, oh, you guys have this, you guys have that. Like I'll give you one simple example is migrations in Rails. We've had migrations in Rails since like forever. But when I look at other projects built in JavaScript or in PHP or in other languages, they don't have migrations. They exist conceptually in the language. Like you can download libraries and put it in your JavaScript project or whatever, but people just don't use them because it's not the default. And it just goes to show that when you have a great foundation, it really does speed you up. It really does make you think and behave and become better programmers. And I think that's the reason why, in general, Ruby programmers, the learning curve behind Ruby is a little bit higher, which is why we made this video series, is to reduce the learning curve, to make it a little bit easier to digest, to make it easy for people to jump into Ruby and get started with it. So if you're thinking of becoming a Ruby programmer, I hope I convince you with this video. And if you're still on the fence, shoot me an email or shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to help convince you and talk you into becoming a Ruby programmer. So I can tell you out there, if you are looking for a job or you're trying to build your own projects, there's a ton of projects out there that are started with Ruby and continue to be successful because of Ruby. And there's also a lot of great jobs out there, job prospects out there that people are looking to hire Ruby programmers and are happy to pay higher prices than other languages. I mean, if you find this controversial and you didn't like what I said, I didn't mean to offend anyone, but it is the truth, at least from what I've experienced, my personal experience. And with that, let's pause that right here. And in the next episode, we're going to jump right into the code, and we're going to do some basic hello world, and then go on to doing more complex things, more amazing things. So with that, I want to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like, share, and also subscribe. Also check out our website. There's more content, more Ruby content, more Rails content on our site. And with that, see you in the next episode.